Did you know that police officers are not allowed to go on a jury? Cops partners, not allowed to go on a jury. And if you're a relation, father, mother, brother, sister of a cop, you too stand a good chance of getting out of doing jury duty. Now, I don't know if you've ever been called up for jury duty. Jury duty can be pretty boring. In the TV you see Perry Mason and you see it all goes so quickly, but that's not what it's like in real life. It drags on and on and on, and if you've got 10 witnesses, you can have those 10 witnesses come in and tell that same story, almost. If they tell the same story, they've cooked it up. It should always be a little bit different. They tell that same story over and over again, and when they've done it, the defence lawyer, he gets to cross-examine them. And then when they've cross-examined them and gone through it all for the second time, then the prosecutor gets up and he re-examines them. So there's 3 times with each witness. 10 witnesses maybe saw the same thing. It is boring. Most people want to get out of jury duty. If you're a cop, ex-cop, retired cop, partner, never have to do jury duty. Why is that, you say? Why would that be? That's hardly fair. You've been a copper, you've retired, why do you get out of jury duty? Why does a wife or husband, partner get out of jury duty? Well, what it is one of the first things they teach you when you're going to law enforcement training, and that is something you will have sort of picked up just by watching TV. And the example they gave us is reasonable cause to suspect. Reasonable cause to suspect. And the example they gave us was, there's a car driving down the road, 2 o'clock in the morning, and the back end is slightly down. And the average person, 2 o'clock in the morning, is driving along, and they might look at that car and go, oh, back end's a bit saggy, and then they keep driving. Not a police officer. A police officer at 2 in the morning is alert, looking for everything. It's boring on night shift. You're looking for something to do. So a police officer on night shift's driving along and he sees a car with a slightly saggy back end and he goes, oh, they've got a stolen safe in that. They've filled it with stuff they've stolen. It's filled with 50,000 machine guns. You get my drift? Coppers. Suspicious lot. And so that's why when you hear them say, did you have reasonable, different terminology in different countries, but we'll stick to Australia, reasonable cause to suspect, and that reasonable cause must be based on the suspicion of a reasonable man. And that's what they talk about kicking in doors, going into cars, searching cars. All of these things are about what a reasonable person would do who's driving around most of the time with their brain in neutral, thinking about what they're going to have for tea. And so that is why very strict determination for reasonable cause to suspect, because coppers aren't reasonable thinkers, they're highly suspicious. And what I want to tell you about in this video about why cops can never be on jury duty stems from another video. A subscriber, John, thank you John, asked me to make a video about Australia's deadly plants. That stemmed from when Cody got sick. If you remember a while back, Cody was mighty sick, weren't you, mate? Yes, you were. You were a very sick boy. Didn't make videos for a while. I was a bit depressed, working on getting him well. One night. No, wasn't I? Yeah. Might probably cut that lot out. But anyway, Australia's deadly plants. So when I was making that video, I of course stumbled across a deadly mushroom and the news events of recent times in Australia surrounding that deadly mushroom. And so what I want to tell you about is I have 4 sons, and one of my sons is, don't know where he gets it from, must be his mother, super intelligent, going to uni, currently working on a thesis to get his master's degree. Very intelligent lad, and he and I were having a chat recently, and he asked me what I thought. This was before the woman was charged with murder. So when the story first broke about a person allegedly murdering some people by poisoning them with death cap mushrooms. I was sitting down with my son and I said to him, mate, there's no doubt about it, she's as guilty as hell. If you're going to be on a jury in Australia, do not watch this movie from this point onwards. Don't watch it. 50% of my viewers are American, so I'm going to keep telling this story. I said, mate, she's as guilty as hell. He said, how can she be? She's innocent until proven guilty. I said, mate, she cooked up those mushrooms. When she'd finished cooking them, she then loaded her food processor that she made the meal with, and all the cooking implements that she'd used to cook the meal. She then put them in her car and left the house. She put them in the car and left her house. She did this before the guests arrived, before the meal was served. She took everything that she used to prepare the meal and put it in her car. And then she drove, and she drove to a rubbish dump. But she didn't drive to the nearest rubbish dump, the dump that was nearest to her house. She drove past that rubbish dump. She went much, much further to a much more distant rubbish dump. And that is where she then dumped, and the food processor was pretty new, pretty good condition, pretty expensive. She dumped it all, and then she came back to the house. Then the guests arrived, then she gave them the meal. So the first thing is, it's very well known that death cap mushroom, known all around the world, is deadly poisonous and does not lose any of its toxic, its poison through heat or cooking. So what I said to my son is, she cooked the meal, put the stuff she used to cook the meal in her car, went to a rubbish dump further away from the rubbish dump that was nearest her home, dumped all the stuff, came back, then served up the meal later. So under the Westminster system, you are innocent until proven guilty. That's the Westminster system. And there's me as an old ex-copper, bitter and twisted, saying, mate, day one, she's guilty because she went and dumped the food processor after making the meal, but before serving it. Now what she didn't know, you see, criminals, they think they are so clever. The things that you don't know. The rubbish dump she went to had security film, and therefore there is film of her dumping the stuff she used to cook the meal with, and the film is date stamped, so they know she went there and dumped that before the guests arrived to eat the meal. Now, I feel a bit bad making this because Australians, I guess, Victorians, people living in Victoria, I hope you don't watch this. Maybe I'll get into some sort of trouble for corrupting a jury, because she has, since then, when my son was so outraged that I had judged her without trial, judged and found guilty without trial. Vigilantism, woohoo! Anyway, so my son was outraged. Well, now she has been charged with multiple counts of murder, and she'll get her day in court, and who knows, with a very good Queen's Counsel at $1,000 a day, that's not a Queen's Counsel anymore, sorry. With a King's Counsel, $1,000, $1,500 a day for a top-notch King's Counsel these days, she might get found not guilty. Then I'll have to take this video down because I get charged with slander or something. Anyway, you get charged with slander if you state facts. She did go to the dump. They do know what time she went to the dump. They do know it was a dump further away from her home. Anyway, this just started out to be, why can't cops be on a jury? That's certainly a long version. If you've stuck with us, you can see he's a lot better. Go check out our other video, which is the one John actually asked for, about Australia's poisonous plants. Australia, the land of sunshine, of beaches, of blue skies and death. Cheers, till next time.